Aquanini Tampag, Scumpson. Good to see you all, family. It's Neesu Wushuwunoag from the Federation of Aboriginal Nations of the Americas. I'm very pleased to be connecting with you. It has been a while. I hope everyone, particularly those in the corridors where you got a lot of snow, we're safe and had everything you need. We got historic amounts here, and where my folks are from. So very blessed to be here and have made it through and have loved ones as well. So, um, but reaching out, it's been a while since we last touched base. We have a policy of speaking when it needs to be spoken on. So I want to have a little discussion today um, that hopefully can do some progress towards advancing the community beyond these sort of ongoing debates over academic, historic, genealogical, or political narratives, things that are focused on the past and what happened, um, but that don't serve as a foundation for addressing things in the present or preparing things for the future. And that discussion can really only be had if we have a general discussion around culture and cultural intelligence. And that's really kind of the sort of threshold that you have to cross over once you've done all of the debating, once you've showed the academic research, and legal documents, and once you showed the history of what happened to certain um, populations, and once you showed your genealogy and all that, and you know who you are, and once you show the political policies that were put in place that stripped your people of their identity. If you're an Indian, and I'm using that term all inclusive of indigenous, Aboriginal, autochthonous, um, original, all of those terms. I'm just using the term Indian. Um, Once you know that you're an Indian, you then have to cross over from all of that space over into the realm of culture. And like I said, cultural intelligence. And that's something that you have to be around others who are immersed in it and knowledgeable about it to pass on to you in order to fully take advantage of. But it's also sort of a lens or a barometer by which indigeneity is often sort of assessed. Oh, you're saying you're that? All right, well, now the interesting thing about this is that, and this is kind of getting towards the purpose of the discussion today. Um, when we're looking at culture, we have sort of a friction, a friction. Um, my uncle, the late Chief Sunset, he had a saying. He says, "An Indian of today, a modern man who forgets not the faith of his forefathers." So there's like this sort of friction that's going on between contemporary culture, and I disagree when they say that there's no American culture. I would suggest that American culture is consumer culture. The things that you can buy with the money that you can make to buy the things. And in American culture or consumer culture, what I have makes me valuable or worthless. So it's about the things that I have, the car that I have, the house that I have, the job that I have. Whereas when you deal with more traditional cultures, who I am makes me valuable or worthless. So yes, I may be the individual that has all of those things, but if I'm not a good person, then those things aren't as valuable as who I am. Who I am is what's valuable. And if I'm good, then we like to think that blessings will come. And if you're doing things that are not good, so it just, it's more about who you are as an individual, whereas contemporary American culture is more about the things that you have. So within this culture, um, in getting to know who you are, I have to ask some questions to learn about you. And often what you see with people who, once again, don't have a high cultural intelligence in this regard is they're offended when they get asked to explain who they are. Now, I'm not arguing about the intention because I know that a lot of times these questions are posed solely for the purpose of trying to discredit, a lot of times with racial undertones, colonized undertones, just ill will. So I'm not ignoring any of that. But what I am saying is to be asked about who you are is a part of the protocol when we're dealing with traditional culture. And that's because there's a number of different things that are accomplished when I find out who you are, which I'm going to get into momentarily. But the title, I say all of that to say that the title of this discussion that we're having today is just simply, what type of Indian are you? And it's once again not to be adversarial, not to be dismissive, not to challenge the authenticity of anyone's claim to indigeneity. Once again, being an Indian, I'm not here to be an Indian decider. I don't. If you say you have indigenous heritage, more power to you. But now we move over into the cultural side of things, and explaining who you are is sort of like the foundation of it all. So what type of Indian are you? And how would you respond? Now, once again, I'm not suggesting that you go down this formulaic sort of checking off the box of making sure to respond to each of these questions, but just some framing for those who may not be aware of this so that you're not offended, but you're able to engage more appropriately with various cultures, whether it's the quote unquote Indians from the Americas or whether it's indigenous cultures from Africa or wherever it is, because there's indigenous people all over the world. But when we talk about the Indians, this is how you might want to look at the hierarchy or the framing of what type of Indian you are. So first, if they ask, well, what type of Indian you are, you would want to respond or be able to respond by the region where you're from. So are you from if we're talking here in the United States, the Northern Plains? There's nations out there like Lakotas and Dakotas. Are you from the Pacific Northwest? There's nations out there. Are you from the Southwest? Are you from the Southeastern Woodlands? Are you from the Great Lakes regions? Are you from like my people, coastal Algonquian, Northeastern Woodland Indians? What region are you from? And why would that be important? Well, your culture, who you are, in terms of being indigenous, is going to be reflected or impacted heavily by the environment where you grow up at. That, what does this say? That's going to impact the type of regalia that you wear. One of the things that is very key is that you can tell where folks are from by the type of regalia that they're wearing, because your regalia is usually made up of things that you would find in your environment. So here, I don't want to get into that. I don't want to get too specific, but your environment, your regalia, the type of food that you eat, the lifestyle that you live. Are you a migratory people? Do you have, permanent housing? Is it built in stone? Is it Weetus and Wikis? Are you around the bayou? Like all of these things are going to be based in the region, and then your lifestyle, but more importantly, when you're relating to all of those things that you were discussing earlier, the academic, the legal, the historic, the genealogical, the political, it's also going to tell or connect with your engagement with European colonization in these lands. So when you start off by identifying the region, you make the natural connection from all of that previous discussion with who you are. So it's where you want to start at, the region. Now, because I'm the one having the discussion, I'll focus on my region, a northeastern woodland coastal Algonquian. That's what I am. That's my region. Oh, okay. Second question. What type of northeastern woodland coastal Algonquian are you? And this is where you would want to speak to the nation. Now, I'm going to use the term nation. Some folks use tribe. I use tribe as a sort of subset of the nation, but we'll say nation. Well, I'm a Nanhignuk, which you all know is Narragansett. I'm a part of the Nanhignuk Nation, the Narragansetts. Now, why is the nation important? Well, once you get through the region, now you're getting down to particular territories because the Northern Plains is a big area. And if there were a few different nations there, well, where were they at? Um, that's going to also plug you into the particular leadership structure. It's also going to plug you into the relationships between the different nations that are in there. So you start to get into the understanding of the politics. All nations don't get along with each other just because they're in certain areas. Some nations are at war with other nations. Some nations are subject to other nations. There is a lot of politics that's going on with the nations at the time of European contact that had nothing to do with Europeans. It was just how the nations dealt with themselves. So once you go from the region, you go to the nation. And once again, a particular territory, a particular leadership structure, it's going to talk about particular practices, traditions, and regalia because different nations do things differently. They might all generally be from here, but they do things differently. So when you talk about the Northeastern Woodland Coastal Algonquians, we powwow around here. Narragansett Indian tribe has the oldest powwow on record, but you'll see a lot of different powwows around here. When you go to the powwows, the different nations do things differently at their powwows. There's some general things that you will see at a Northeastern Woodland powwow, but nation to nation, things are done in different ways at different times for different reasons. So there's particular practices, traditions, and regalia. You might see certain designs in particular pieces that particular tribes wear. You can tell a lot about people where they're from by their nation, but once again, your nation's going to be in a specific region. And then, like I said, after the nation, you might have tribes that are underneath the nation. And for my folks, you say, okay, you're a Nenhignuk, a Narragansett. What type of Nenhignuk are you? Oh, I'm from Mashapog. Now we get even more specific on the territory where the person is from. And once again, within that tribal structure, what's the leadership structure there, which is going to bring us down one level, but we've gone from region to nation to tribe. So we've gone to 3 steps before we get to fully understand what type of Indian you are when we ask the question. So you can see, as you explain, you learn more about the individual. So let's continue. We now gone down to the tribe. What type of Mashapog are you? Well, I'm a Wushuwunoag clan. I'm from the Wushuwunoag clan, which in English is the Hawk clan. Oh, okay. Well, what is that? Why is that important? Because clans might have particular duties or rights within the tribe. It also denotes certain bloodlines, right? It is, in my opinion, the fundamental sort of political structures of the tribes, the clans. This is just my perspective. Please don't take this as any sort of concrete, this is the way it's done. Every tribe does it like this. This isn't any of that. This is just a structure for folks to understand when you're making that transition away from those debates, because you know who you are, into the cultural realm to inform your cultural intelligence. So you don't get frustrated when people approach you in a protocol manner and take it as an attack or anything like that. So let us continue. So we got the clan, and like I said, particular duties, rights, particular bloodlines. It's really like the fundamental political body. I would argue, but others may disagree. But then I break it down another level beyond that to the family. And you could call it nuclear family. They're just going to call it the family, like the mother, the father, perhaps the children, it could be an extended family. But once again, that could potentially start getting into a clan. But, for larger family, aunts, uncles, but like the folks that are like regular sort of interactions with that consider to be your family, like your family. And then within that structure, you talk about the parent-child relationship, next generations, every family, raising the young folks up properly to be able to pass on to them these traditions so that they can be actively engaged within their clan so that their clan can, help the tribe to move forward, to advance the interests of the nation, within this region. You follow that. After all of that, the region, the nation, the tribe, the clan, the family, now I finally get to know you, the individual, what type of Indian you are. I'm a Northeastern Woodland Coastal Algonquian, Nenhignuk, from the Mashipog tribe, from the Wushuwunoag clan. and my bloodlines are Niles, Kong, and Rod. You see what I'm saying? You know who I am. You know who I am. And in telling you who I am, if we are familiar with the history of each other's peoples, I've told you a whole lot about me, so you know something about me. Now, what is the purpose of this? I'm going to argue that there's two primary purposes for this. A, to explore the potential for establishing a relationship. Because, oh, okay, that's who you are. Well, let me share who I am. Or maybe you have some questions about who I am, but there's a relationship that gets built there. We start to learn about one another. And in learning about one another, we start to explore opportunities for trade, for exchange, for all sorts of things that come out of positive engagements through a cultural lens of sharing who we are. But the opportunity to establish a relationship. So that's the first reason why, because once again, the value is in who you are. I want to get to know who you are. Now, why do I want to get to know you for who you are? The second one, to identify any potential threats. Because what if this particular tribe has issues with the Nanhignuks? And I'm a Mashapog from there. And now I know where they're from, so I can identify that could potentially be something, so I need to navigate that. So there's that side as well. It's a protection mechanism as well, because once again, your value is in who you are, the character you have, the things that you've done. I like to say your reputation precedes you. So, and this is important, right? Because when we're talking culture, I've seen lots of names popping up, and it's like, okay, your name really was a reflection of the value that your community had for you and what they decided to address you as. So it's supposed to be earned based upon who you are, not self-selected. And this is a cultural thing because your name, even your name, is going to tell me something about you and how you're viewed by the people around you, your value, who you are. Because if your name is cowardly deer, cowardly deer, oh man, you're from where? Oh, your people are warriors. How'd you get cowardly deer? You see what I'm saying? I've learned something about you based on getting to know who you are. So I'm able to assess whether there's a potential threat or potential anything I need to keep in mind when I'm dealing with you. So to be asked what type of Indian you are, it shouldn't be taken as anything, any sort of offense. It should be a charge that you take on to know who you are, to know who your folks are. And the other thing that I want to share as well is that, there's nothing wrong when you're increasing your cultural intelligence to share that you don't know. I know this. I'm looking to know more. Humility goes a long way when you're dealing with these sorts of things. So, once again, just wanting to address some just cultural nuance. We're going to be doing more of these sorts of videos. We really don't have any interest, once again, in the back and forth debates that are going on. Indigenous folks were enslaved. Indigenous folks were misclassified to Negroes. Um, indigenous folks were, a large portion of the enslaved population here and in the Caribbean and were sent over everywhere. The flip side, there were Africans that were brought here, all of these things, several things are true at the same time. It's not a competition. Several things are true at the same time. When do we move beyond the debate? Because staying focused on the past, you're not utilizing that as being an impact for today and setting up future opportunities for those who are coming after. And if you know tradition, we'll talk about this in the future too. There's a 7 generations mindset that's supposed to be embraced in many generations. They may not call it 7 generations, but there's an understanding about the responsibility of now to the future that really underpins everything that we're engaged in. So, yeah, just sharing some information and some perspective to help folks out there increase their cultural intelligence. Once again, if you're tired of being caught in that endless sort of debate, and I think you've seen since we've kind of stepped back over the past year or so, focused on a few project and development things, but sharing less information, it's kind of stalled out. And just some of the most ridiculous theories floating around that really, for those who once again are on the cultural threshold side of things and moving beyond those things and are engaging with their cultural intelligence, it becomes a frustrating waste of time to have to keep debating these things instead of applying that history and saying, because that happened to us, this is what we're doing now, and we're doing this so that we can do this in the future. We want to encourage you all to come on this side. Come on this side of the threshold. You don't have to deny that you have African heritage to celebrate your indigeneity. If you identify more with African heritage, you don't have to not acknowledge your indigeneity. You can do them both. You can do them both. And you should, because we are all who we are. Creator has us in this space today to be who you are, to deal with the things that are going on today. So on behalf of the Federation, once again, just some perspective titled it, What Type of Indian Are You? Once again, just encourage you all out there who know that you're Indians to move beyond the back and forth about who you are and start to kind of really engage with the culture so you can tap in ideally with your people and learn more about who you are and where you come from. Thank you very much for listening. Wuni Nakan, have a good evening. Peace Kanash. We will see you all soon. I hope.
Yeah. Too many lost souls searching for a name. Too many kings forgot their crown, chasing myths instead of mirrors. This one's for the truth seekers.